everyone. This is the first edition of Classroom Careers. So this is a new podcast that Hoop Education are putting out now to hopefully give a bit of an insight to some of our candidates and schools that we work with, just to give a bit of advice on different topics over the next coming months. So my name's Olivia. I'm the business manager for our Cardiff office, and I'm here today with
Abby. Hi everyone. I'm the Senior Recruitment Partner at Hoop. I specialise in secondary education, so I work with secondary schools right across South East Wales.
Amazing. And so as well as business manager, I specialise in primary supply education. I am actually a qualified primary teacher as well. So prior to working at Hoop, I did quite a lot of supply work in primary schools. So got a really good insight in terms of what to expect on a day-to-day basis. And that's really what we want to cover on the first podcast today. With the timing of the year now, obviously it's the 1st of September. So the new academic year is due to start now next week. Myself and Abby have been busy getting ready for new placements to commence next week, with some new teachers that have just qualified as well. So I'd imagine there's quite a lot of nerves.
It's just gone so quick,
It has.
The 6 weeks have flown by, but I think we're ready to get back to the swing of it now. I miss my schools, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. And I think it's been a nice time for those teachers that have just qualified to just have a bit of downtime and hopefully get themselves in the right mindset now, ready for the new academic year, because it is very different, you know, going from university and sort of observed placements and having a mentor alongside you to actually going out and either having your own full-time class or going into different classes if you're on day-to-day supply. So
I do think it is more nerve-wracking the thought rather than actually doing it. I think that's why this is quite important to do, because I put myself in that position. I can imagine it's really daunting. Even doing a school visit, you get quite nervous when you're doing CV workshops, so I think it is really important that we kind of break it down so you know exactly what you can do to prepare best for your first week, which will lead on then to a full year in teaching.
And I think the first thing to remember is it's really important you remember you've qualified, so you are qualified and in a good position to be able to do this job, otherwise you wouldn't have got your qualification. So it's just remembering you have been awarded a qualified teacher status, or you've successfully completed your PGC for a reason, and you would have come out of university or your last placement with certain professional areas of development to work on, so it's just a really nice opportunity now to sort of take those things that you're aware that you need to develop on and use the opportunity to improve on them. So don't feel too nervous about it's going to be a completely different game, because it's what and what you've been doing this whole time really, just without, like I said, that extra provision of having someone observing you all the time. There will be observations along the way, which I'm sure newly qualified teachers will know, which I'll go into a little bit more detail about how you can prepare for those a bit later. But it's really just preparation. I mean, in terms of when you're working on supply with us, we'll give you the school name and the location, and we'll give you as much information as we possibly can in terms of what you'll need to know with regards to that specific school. But I mean, I'm sure you've had a couple of questions when you're booking people in for supply, Abby, about parking and the specific location. It
is. That will calm your nerves massively, just knowing where to park. Like the little things you don't think are really that important, and knowing who you're reporting to when you get in, where to go, where's reception. It is important to remember we do school visits, like I said, so we've been to a lot of these schools, so we can give you that information. But sometimes just searching up on Google Maps, having a little look around at what the school looks like, the road leading into the school, the parking situation for yourself, maybe even doing a test drive there if you're going into a long-term placement, so you know exactly where you're going then in that morning.
Absolutely.
It just help calm your nerves a little bit.
It settles your nerves for the start of the day. I think when you come in flustered and you've spent 20 minutes trying to find somewhere to park, and then you're heading into the school office in an possibly unfamiliar environment, it can be a lot first thing in the morning, and then 100%. You're expected to stand up in front of 30 odd children.
Sweating.
So it's it definitely pays off to do a little bit of prep beforehand. So like Abby said, looking at where you can park, the school specific location, more specific to the school as well. If you've got time and you've got enough advance notice, look at the behaviour policy for the school as well. Every school is different, as we all know, and different schools will have different approaches to how they teach and manage behaviour in schools. They might have certain strategies and techniques for managing behaviour that are sort of unique to and across the whole school. So if that is something that you can have a bit of inside knowledge on before you actually get there, it will put you in really good stead for hitting the ground running with a good sort of behaviour management strategy when you get in there.
And just knowing who you can turn to if you do need a little bit of support when you are covering classes. You're usually within a department. So around you will be English teachers or maths teachers or science teachers. But with certain schools, like like Olivia said, they'll have their own behaviour policy. So it could be as simple as picking the phone up and calling a number. Some people have like walkie-talkies. Like every school is totally different. So knowing that before you even go in the morning is great. And the schools will run through this with you anyway. I know a lot of my schools have a little booklet. Sometimes they'll send that to me, so I'll know it before you go in. So, your consultant can run through that with you as well. Just ask as many questions as you can when you get in on the day. So, or ask us as many questions before you go in, so you are fully prepared to who your support is and how you can get that if you should need it.
Yeah, and I think the key thing there is to try and get there that little bit earlier on your first day as well. Just so that when you are going to reception, they might have, like Abby said, an induction booklet to run through with you. That is specific for supply teachers. Going through sort of fire access points, behaviour management strategies. What the timings of the day are. That's another really important one as well. That is useful to know beforehand, so you can sort of plan what the day's looking like for you. One of the main things as well that you'll need access to is resources for your lessons. So making sure that you know exactly where everything is before you really set foot in the classroom, ideally, just so that you're able to go in there with confidence and you've got that time to prepare and allow the lesson to run as smoothly as possible, really. Another thing that I recommend, if you have got that sort of advanced time as well, is sort of getting yourself familiar with the school ethos and priorities. This is something that is really important to school, and I don't think is really sort of mentioned or shouted about enough, especially in supply work as well. It's quite recognised in supply that you sort of go into the school and do what you need to do in the day and then leave, but the impact that you're having on that day-to-day basis, it's really important that you know what the school's priorities are as well as what your areas of development are. So if you can sort of really make sure that you're incorporating those priorities in your lessons, it's going to put you in really good stead for, in terms of the school recognising how good a teacher you are as well. And you'll come away at the end of the day feeling like you've made an impact, which is one of the best parts of the job, as we all, I'm sure we can all agree. And this will all be made available on any school website. So, school websites are sort of obliged to put all of their policies and as much information as you can possibly find on there. So you'll find what the areas of development were from the previous inspection history, what their sort of mantra is as a school, and the things that they try and instill in the pupils on a daily basis. And it helps your credibility then when you're in a school setting, and you're sort of referring to those points, when pupils hear you, because they might sort of think you're a bit of an unfamiliar face initially, but if they can hear that you're referring to things that they recognise on a day-to-day basis and are sort of wider known in the school, it's going to put you in better stead and earn you probably a little bit more respect in the class as well.
I think the whole reason we get into teaching is to make a difference and to impact their lives, and obviously with COVID that was massively disrupted. Absolutely. So not only is this benefiting you, but it is obviously benefiting the pupils when you go into that school. But also, back to, the point of benefiting yourself, you want to be booked. That's the whole point in working on an agency. And schools will request staff by name if they've made a big enough impact on day-to-day bookings. We always say, with our standby system, it's a great way to get your foot in the door. But, it's kind of 50-50. We'll put you into that school, but you need to make that really good first impression. And by doing this preparation, you're kind of ticking those boxes. And it doesn't go unnoticed by us as an agency or by the school. You know, they will remember you and they will request you back in. And as and when they have those long-term placements, they'll remember the effort that you put in, the questions that you asked, the feedback from the kids and from the other teachers as well. Who are, you know, they do listen in as well sometimes to the heads of departments who are listening to your lessons. So yeah, it is really important that you prepare.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Ab said, it's remembering what you're there to do. Ask questions as well. I think that's probably one of the scariest things when you're, you know, starting your teaching career in general, but also on a day-to-day basis, you know, is don't be expected to know everything. You know, you are there to do the best job that you can, but in order to do the best job that you can, you need to be able to ask questions and know exactly what it is, what the lesson priorities are, and what you know that teacher that's absent wants out of that lesson that you're covering or the day that you're covering. So ask questions if you need to, even if they sound like silly ones. You know, I can guarantee a school will much rather you ask question and get it right than sort of not ask that question, possibly go down a, you know, a completely different route than what you're meant to, and possibly, you know, hinder the journey of the learning for the children. So don't be afraid to ask questions. And like Abby said, you know, there's going to be numerous people in the department working with you that you can lean on as well. Don't feel like you're annoying them at all by asking them those questions, because like you said, it's allowing you to do the best job that you can there as well. Resources, I mean, you know, that's a question I get a lot when we've been registering new people over the summer holidays, is do I need to have my own resources? Do I need to plan my own lessons? You know, it really is sort of case by case basis with placements. You know, if you are on a long-term placement, either, you know, myself or Abby or, you know, our other team members will have gone through with you what the nature of the placement is, whether it's long-term, short-term sickness cover, whether you will be expected to contribute to planning, but you're not going to be sort of left in there without anything at all, I think is the most important to remember. So I hope that settles some nerves. One thing I would recommend though, and when I first started as a supply teacher, this is something I wish someone had sort of told me, is, you know, sometimes children will work through the lesson that's been left and planned for you quicker than what was expected. So it's a good idea to have some backup resources just so that you have something to fall back on if, you know, they do sort of finish 10-15 minutes earlier than expected, just so that you are still able to engage those learners. You know, whilst you know, waiting for the end of that lesson time. You may have an absolute abundance of resources that you already have from your studies and you know, your PGC or QTS that you can use. You know, think about ones that you've used before and have worked really well. Think about things that you've used in lessons that you've been observed in, that you've had, you know, sort of, you know, qualitative feedback on. If you are sort of struggling though, there are plenty of resources out there. You may have already registered for a hub account. If you haven't already, do get in touch with us because I can point you in the right direction to get that. But there are so many resources on there that you can use. Some of the other more sort of commonly known ones, a Twinkle as well, that's a really good one, more so for primary supply. But also ask the school. Like I said, if you're ever in doubt, please make sure that you're asking the school if you are short of resources or if you think you're going to get through a lesson quicker than what's sort of specified on the plan. But yeah, just contact us. You know, as you know, for myself personally, I have a memory stick full of resources that have, you know, sort of used as sort of time fillers and can still engage the pupils at the end of the lesson. So I'm more than happy to share those with sort of primary teachers. I'm sure that we've got some sort of secondary ones archived as well that's you know, we've sort of spoken to schools about, and you know, they've recommended as well if you are sort of ever in that situation as well. Yeah, I mean, I know you've given some advice to people that have worked in secondary schools and have been left without planning before.
Yeah, I had exactly the same, you know, and 9 times out of 10 the school will have everything that you need, you know, so they'll have resources, like Olivia said, she's got it just on a memory stick. They'll have resources there for you. I find, to be honest, they're really, really supportive, the schools are. They will let me know during the booking process, all the work is set. However, you know, lesson 2 on a Wednesday, there's a free lesson, you know, you can come to the staff room, you can go to the office and we'll give them resources ready, because on this lesson, you know what I mean, like the kids are progressing already, so the teachers won't go on on sick or go on leave without making sure that whoever is covering for them has everything that they need. And if there is ever a situation where you don't have, for example, a full lesson worth of work for those pupils, the school can provide that for you. And we can, of course, you know, so there is an awful lot of resources there for you. You just need to ask. Don't let them out early. Just make sure you're asking the question, you get everything that you need, but you will get full support off us and off the school. Just make sure you're asking the questions and you're voicing any concerns that you've got, so we know when we need to step in to help you.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll remember from, you know, your school experiences in the past, you know, the majority of schools are required to sort of have their medium-term plans mapped out already, right at the start of the year. That's what all those lovely inset days are for, and, you know, planning and strategy days for schools. So there will be a sort of overarching theme of what it is that you need to complete. As for more, you know, the short-term planning and the specifics, if you haven't got that, like we said, just make sure that you ask, because it should be there available, and quite rightly, as Abby said, you know, for planned absences, that planning should be there for you. So in terms of, you know, if you're a newly qualified teacher, there are, if you haven't already and if you haven't registered with us yet, we really hope you will consider sort of registering with Hooks. We do have a newly qualified teacher induction scheme available here. You know, as someone, as you know, myself has been through the process before. Last year we supported, I think it was 12 newly qualified teachers, the majority of which now are sort of coming to the end of their induction, which is really, really encouraging, as they've completed that all on short-term supply. So there are a couple of steps. So if you haven't already notified the Education Workforce Council that you are a newly qualified teacher and are intended to complete your induction through short-term supply, there is a form that you need to send to them, which is quite specific. So do get in touch with us if you need any support with that at all. Again, that is something that I wish that I was told when I first started on supply, because it is really important that the EWC have that before you start, so that you're able to start logging your sessions. I would definitely, again, a bit of advice is to log your sessions as you go along throughout the academic year as well. You know, way back when I first graduated and started supply work, I would sort of, you know, work a full term of work and then log my sessions, which can get quite a tiresome task if you leave it build up that much. So, you know, I will sort of send sort of weekly and fortnightly reminders to upload your sessions as well, to your e-portfolio, which you should all be familiar with. So once you've submitted that form, then if you contact us and let us know that you are intending to work on short-term supply, we can add you to our NQT induction pool. So that is basically a community that we've sort of built, that, you know, in which you're able to share resources and experiences with each other. And it's quite nice as well, knowing that you've got sort of a community to lean back on. You know, if you are doing short-term day-to-day supply, you may not necessarily have, you know, a staff room that you can confer with on a day-to-day basis, because you may be meeting different people every day. So, you know, it's important to talk, especially in your first year of teaching. So, you know, make sure that you are talking with us and with our NQT pool once you're registered. You can talk about what's gone well, what hasn't maybe gone so well, and some of the resources that you have found have worked particularly well on your teaching experiences. But also just to have events sometimes. You know, it can feel a little bit lonely sometimes when you're working on day-to-day supply, but we've put this sort of NQT community in place so that you have got someone to come back to, as well as our consultants obviously on the team, who are always there to sort of be a shoulder to cry on, or somebody to celebrate your successes with, which is really, really important. I
think it's nice just to remember you've got full support from us.
Yeah.
We understand Olivia's been there herself, worked on agency before. It can be quite daunting and, you know, quite intimidating, and there's a lot going on within a day as well, especially within secondary, and you move into different classes all day. So, you know, we totally appreciate that sometimes you just need someone to talk to and just to tell about your day, and having that NQT mentor there as well, who's, again, like I said, done it all before, which, you know, she's there to fully support you, and I think that's a real nice. That's really nice to have, you know, for all of our staff, because we know how challenging it can be working in schools at the moment.
Absolutely.
And you're all incredibly important, and we want you to feel like you've got full support from us there as well.
Absolutely. And I think another thing that I wish I had done when I first started as well is actually writing down those things. I think we get so sort of encompassed with things that maybe don't go quite so well in our teaching career, and we'll evaluate them and think about how we can prevent that from happening next time, but also the things that that time when, or that lesson, for example, when you come away and you think, do you know what, they got that was a really, really good lesson. Make sure that you note that down and use it as an opportunity to reflect back on it when you are sort of going through those times of struggle, because it can get a little bit overwhelming, and if you are sort of increasing in responsibility as your teaching career progresses, you may go down the avenue of sort of senior leadership routes and subject specialist leaders. It's thinking back or thinking in advance and thinking what sort of things did I learn, and what were the things that kept me going in my first year of teaching. So make sure that you're noting down the positives as well, and letting us know as well. We don't always want to just hear about sort of days that you've had that maybe haven't gone quite so well, but we want to hear about the good stuff as well. And equally we'll share that with you. If schools call in, which we're really pleased to say that they do call in and say, do you know what, she or he was absolutely fantastic today, can we book them again? That is probably that's probably the favourite part of the job, to be honest. So we want to hear that from you as well. People tend to only ring up when there's ever an issue, but we want to hear about the good stuff as well, don't we?
It gives us some guidance as well on, if there's a certain school you absolutely love, we're not going to know that unless you tell us. Equally with the challenges, we need to know what the challenges are. If there's any schools you think I didn't really vibe within that environment, that's fine, but we love to hear about the positives. It makes our day so much better as well, knowing that we're placing teachers in an environment where they thrive and they feel comfortable and happy. When we're speaking to other candidates as well, we know that there's a school that really, really values their agency staff and looks after them, and that's important to us, and we can call that school and say, oh, by the way, our agency staff had an amazing day today. You've got a beautiful school, and they love to hear that too. Absolutely.
It's like I said, it's very easy to dwell on the negatives, but it's thinking in advance. How nice would it be to look in 2-3 years' time and look at your first sort of diary of your teaching career and think, oh yeah, that was great, and that's what got me into the career, and that's what I want to keep doing. So make sure that you're noting those positives down for yourself. Definitely get yourself organised. There's nothing better than having a diary, knowing exactly what you're doing throughout the day. If you are looking at doing short-term day-to-day supply, making sure that you can note down which school that you've been in each day. Again, that'll come in really handy when you're logging your sessions on your e-portfolio, and just for you to feel completely in control as well. There's so many things that can happen on a day-to-day basis that are out of your control, so whatever you can do to sort of take back that control and make sure that you're organising your day and your weeks correctly. Making sure you've got enough time to do that background check that we talked about earlier on in the podcast, looking at the school policies, looking at the school websites, finding out, and just being a sponge really from getting as much information as you can about those schools before you even walk through the door, is definitely going to work in your favour. But yeah, I think the most important thing to remember is to try and enjoy it. You've obviously spent an awful lot of time and money really to get into this career, to get your qualification in doing this. There's you've got to remember what's motivated you to get into this career, and really celebrate those highs, really.
Just remember what you're doing it for.
You're
making a huge impact to the pupils you're teaching. You think back to when you were younger and you had your favourite teacher, and you want to be that person and that teacher for somebody else, and I think that's really important. Just focus on the positives and come and talk to us.
Absolutely.
Like little therapists, and we free therapists.
We do, and we love it as well. We love to hear absolutely everything that you have to say. We try and provide solutions where we can, and if we haven't got them, we are consultants for a reason. We will consult with the school to find that solution for you. So don't ever feel like you're on your own in your first year. It's going to be a year of a lot of learning, a lot of ups and downs, and in reflection. is I'm sure that's a word that you're all very familiar with in your sort of teacher training. It's being able to reflect on that and making sure that you know what it is that you want to come out of it with, remembering your development points and like Abby said, remembering what you're doing it for. So I hope that's reassured some of you, perhaps feeling a little bit apprehensive about next week. The schools will be really excited to meet you. They always love to see newly qualified teachers and people just starting their teaching career. We've got a lot of energy and sort of enthusiasm about it at this point. So it's important that we sort of are able to speak to schools and let them know that you're available now and ready to go. So I hope you're feeling excited. There are going to be nerves, that's natural, but we want to make sure that if anything else out of this podcast today, that the support is there for you if you ever need it. If you are a newly qualified teacher and you are looking to start your supply journey in September, it may be that you haven't found a full-time role as of yet and are looking for some new experiences. Here at Hoop Education, we do offer supply placements, both short-term and long-term, whatever it is that you're looking for, in both primary, secondary and additional learning needs and specialist settings. You can either call us on 02921 303 111 or email myself for primary or Abigail Clement for secondary.
And if you have any questions, just reach out, let us know.
Absolutely. But good luck. Thank you for listening. And we can't wait to hear from some of you soon.
Yeah, thank you.